this deep sleep of happiness. Until that one night, changed everything. We had made camp, and we were all rested for the night, and a man came running through our camp, racing, shaking the shoulders of the men, waking them up, screaming something, flailing his arms. We couldn't hear what he was saying. And when he got a little further away, we could not believe the words he had brought to us. Arrested. Jesus. Arrested. For what? For what? For healing people? For feeding people? For teaching us about Almighty God? Arrested. Possible. I remember saying to him, stay here. Stay. I'm going to get dressed. And my friend and I will go find out what this is all about. And so we did. We got dressed very quickly and we ran out of camp just in time to encounter a mob with swords and with torches, dragging Jesus away in the darkness from a garden, taking him to the place of the high priest. We followed him. When they arrived at the courtyard of the high priest, there was a great assembly there of Pharisees and lawgivers, teachers of the law. They brought Jesus up to a platform, and they had him bound, his hands behind him. And then people would come up, and they would make accusations against him. They would tell stories about him. The Pharisees called these people witnesses. Witnesses. None of their stories matched. None of their stories were the same. Now it says in the law of Moses that in order for a man to be brought up on charges, and these two witnesses must agree in their testimony for it to be considered a fact. And yet no one agreed. And yet they held him on charges. What was going on? I couldn't understand it. Nobody could understand it. And Jesus, no matter what they said, he spoke not a word back to them. Not a word. I looked at him and I thought, defend yourself. They're lying. You know they're lying. Defend yourself. Speak up. But not a word from his mouth. It wasn't until the high priest himself came up to address Jesus. The high priest, he walked around Jesus like Jesus was an animal, looking at him from the base of his feet to the top of his head. Something that he would buy. An animal, a slave, great arrogance. And he walked over to Jesus and he said, tell me, are you the Son of the Most High? The Son of the Blessed One? Every eye was on Jesus. Every tongue was quiet. Every body was still. The silence hung in the air like a dense morning mist. And Jesus raised his head and he said, I am. They're angry, erupting like a volcano. They began to yell and scream. They began to curse at him. They spit upon him. They grabbed him. One man took him and blindfolded him, while another screamed in his face, Messiah, prophesy! And they hit him. Who hit you, Messiah? Prophesy! Then they took him away. And they beat him. They said that he was guilty of blasphemy. And they condemned him to death. These are not Romans. These are the high priests of God and the temple guards. Has the world gone mad? What is happening? My friends and I could not make any sense of it. We didn't know what to do, but we were sure of one thing. We were sure that they had apprehended him at night because they were afraid of the crowds. And once the crowds found out, once the people found out in the morning, there would be a riot. And so we knew that they would release him in the morning. Oh, they tried to humiliate him now, but when the people find out, they will make them release him. We went to bed that night, assured it would be all different in the morning. The morning came. And they did not release him. Instead, they bound him up and they marched him off to the praetorium, their home and headquarters and the prefect of the province of Judea. They stood Jesus before the Roman governor, Pontius Pilate. Now, Pilate was told that he was going to meet the king of the Jews. And so when he came out to see Jesus, he was perplexed. There were no fine garments. There was no jewelry. There was no crown. And he was cut and bleeding from the beating he had taken. Pilate looked at him and said, Are you the king of the Jews? And Jesus replied, It is as you say. Now Pilate asked him many other questions. But as for me, I never again heard my Jesus speak. Well, it was the time of Passover. And it was the Roman custom at this time for the Romans to release a Jewish prisoner to the populace because they had oppressed them all year. At this time of the year, they released one to appease them in some manner. And so Pilate could see no reason for keeping Jesus. There was nothing he had done to warrant death or torture. And so he said to the crowd, I will release to you this one you call the Christ, your king, the king of the Jews. I will release him to you. And they cried out, No, no, we don't want him released. We want another. Give us Barabbas. Barabbas. Barabbas is a thief. He's an insurrectionist. He's an accused murderer. You want them to release a killer? And you're going to imprison a man of God? Has the world gone mad? Even Pilate was incredulous. He stood before them. He looked at them. He said, What is it that you want of me? What do you expect me to do? What do you want me to do with this man? And it was then they cried out in reply that has sent chills throughout the centuries. For they cried out, Crucify him! Crucify him! Crucify him! No, this can't be happening. This can't be happening. I know these people. These are some of the same people that came with Lucia and I and followed Jesus into Jerusalem. These are some of the same people that cried out, Hosanna in the highest. Blessed is he who comes in the name of the Lord. Just a few days ago you praised him as the Son of God, and now you condemn him to death out of the same mouth. This should not be. No. Pilate looked at the crowd with disgust. He knew that they were jealous of this man, or they would have no reason to bring this innocent man to this place. But he also knew that if he did not do what they told him to do, it would be a riot, and he would have to answer for Caesar. And so he washed his hands of the affair, and he walked off and just waved his hand. And when he did that, Roman soldiers came from everywhere. They grabbed Jesus from the platform. They took him away, tied him to a scourging post. And I thought, no! I looked at the crowd again. John, Peter, Matthew, Nathaniel, Philip, where are you? Stop them! Stop them, don't you see? Stop them, somebody stop them. They took Jesus, they tied him to a flogging post. They stripped his clothing from him. And then these monstrous barbarians, they took a Roman flagrum. It's a short whip with braided leather straps. At the tip of each is bronze or lead or a jagged sheep bone fragment. And one man stood on one side of Jesus, and another man stood on the other side. And they began to flail his body, his back, and his shoulders, and his legs, and his buttocks. They tore his flesh. They exposed his bones. I watched in physical sickness till they almost beat him to death. They had nearly killed him. The soldiers took him and they fashioned a crown of thorns and they pushed him in his head. They put a cloth about his cut and bleeding body so that it stuck to his wounds. They gave him a staff, a piece of bamboo, and they started to mock him, saying, "Hail, King of the Jews!" And then they took the staff and they hit him with it. Hit him. When they were finished mocking him, they gave him a cross to bear. And they marched him through the streets. People screaming and spitting on him. He was beaten so badly. He had not gone far when he fell. He tried to get up. He could not. And finally the Romans, they pulled the man from the crowd. He got back to his feet. And they continued to walk to the hill called Calvary. People, inches from his face, screaming at him, spitting on him. He made it to the hill, but not much further when again Jesus fell to the earth. His face in the dirt. We tried to get to him, we tried to reach him, but the Romans, they beat us back. They wouldn't let any of us help him. He lay in the dirt, bleeding, broken. And then the Romans came and they kicked him over on his back. And then they came and they took his arms and they stretched him out. And they held him down. And they violently pounded nails into his body. They took the cross with Jesus upon it, they lifted it in the air, and placed it in a hole that they had dug in the ground. And then they let my Jesus hang upon that tree until he died.